Well, this is kind of awkward. I had pretty much finished working on my video pitching a spin-off about the off-colors from Steven Universe. But I just woke up and it's actually happening now. I put way too much effort into this video to just scrap it entirely, so I'm still gonna post it. So here is the video I made pitching a spin-off surrounding the off-colors, which I guess now is more so talking about what I want out of Lars of the Stars. Back in February last year, I made a video very briefly pitching 3 Steven Universe miniseries, one of them being about the off-colors. Then, in July, I made a full video dedicated to pitching an off-colors spin-off. And now I'm back to do it for a third time, going even more in depth into my headcanons and ideas, because I'm addicted to these silly billies, and especially their super hot captain. So here's my full pitch for The Off-Colors, a Steven Universe series. And yes, I'm using the correct spelling of color, not the stupid American one. Let's start with my headcanons for their stories. They are very intertwined, so don't mind me as I jump around a little bit. We begin far in the past.
We've been hiding in these tunnels for eons.
A Morganite, entrusted with designing palanquins for the diamonds, acquires herself a pearl, a group of rubies, and presumably a sapphire alongside those rubies. But we're just focusing on one ruby and the pearl. For a while they lived their purpose, following their directive to the T. But one day, for whatever reason, Pearl and one of the rubies are left alone, and they would begin to bond. And they would continue to talk whenever they had the chance, becoming closer and closer. And one day, they would become so close that they would end up fusing, and Rhodonite was born. Unfortunately, this new wonderful experience distracted her from Morganite returning. She would be appalled at the sight of a ruby fusing with her pearl. Rhodonite would quickly unfuse, and Morganite would attempt to use a rejuvenator on both of them. Ruby would just barely escape, but Pearl would be hit directly by the rejuvenator, using her final moments to tell Ruby to run. And she would, escaping to a deep cave system in Homeworld. Pearl would eventually regain her memories. I don't have an exact idea how, but I really want Ruby and Pearl to be separated for a long time to fit my idea of Rhodonite's character. But we'll get back to those two later. Meanwhile, a Padparacha Sapphire, fresh from the kindergarten, is put into service. But it quickly becomes apparent that her future vision is more so a past vision. Rejuvenation won't change this, so the only option to her superiors was to shatter her. However, those superiors would become distracted by a trio of Paradots who would end up rescuing Padparacha from her deadly fate, helping Padparacha hide away. They would shortly meet up with a Jade already known to the Paradots, and the 4 of them would fuse together, something they had already done many times before. As they ventured through Homeworld's caves, they would encounter Ruby, who quickly become rather fond of Padparacha. Now we turn our attention to a Homeworld kindergarten producing Rutiles. Nothing much to say here. The main show told us exactly what happened. The Rutile twins emerged from their hole, all the other Rutiles ran away, leaving them all alone. But they would still have each other. I want to give them names to help distinguish them, as they are their own people despite sharing a lower half. Gems often use their specific numbers to distinguish each other, such as the Famethyst.
I'm 8XM, Facet 5, Cut 8XM, that's me! This is 8XG, this is 8XH, I'm J. Oh, jeez, sorry, I'm worse than Holly Blue!
So let's just say that they're Rutile 5DX and 5DY, or just simply X and Y. And while we're at it, Padparacha 9HW, Ruby 7BL, Pearl 2JQ, Jade 6FO, and Paradots 3GH, 3KP, and 4AD. Now let's return to Pearl. Again, I don't know exactly how she would regain her memories. I just want her and Ruby to be separated for a very long period of time. And to keep that time really long for Pearl too, meaning she would regain her memories fairly soon after being rejuvenated, similar to how the crystal gems were in the movie. And she would spend an incredibly long time, possibly even hundreds of years, trying to escape Morganite. Pearl would be able to track down Ruby through signs that she would have left behind that only Pearl would be able to recognize. And eventually she would find Ruby again and meet Padparacha and the 3 Peridot plus Jade fusion. and they would fuse once again. I love the idea of Rhodonite's anxious personality being a result of Ruby and Pearl's fears of being separated again. This would also mean that Rhodonite almost never unfuses. Garnet willingly unfuses on many occasions throughout the show, even before Ruby and Sapphire began exploring their own identities. But I don't see Rhodonite doing the same, at least not for now. All the characters together would continue to live in the caves, constantly on the run from Robonoids. Eventually, they would come across the Rutile twins' kindergarten and welcome them as part of the group. At some point, the 3 Peridot plus Jade fusion would be captured and put on trial before the Diamonds. Rhodonite, Padparacha, and the twins set out on a rescue mission, and on their way meet a disgraced Emerald and her Sapphire, who have also been cast aside due to them fusing. Just a reminder, if you haven't watched my previous video pitching the Off Colors spin-off, this is a different Emerald to Emerald. When they learn of another fusion being at risk of shattering, they agree to help. The 3 Peridot plus Jade fusion, I really need to think of a name for her, is saved, and during this escape is fused with, again I need to think of an actual name for the Emerald and Sapphire fusion, but these 2 fusions would fuse, and thus Fluorite is born. Also, Sapphire 7YU, Emerald 0VR. After such a close call with the Diamonds, the Off-Colors would go into further hiding, going even further down into the caves and kindergartens of Homeworld. And there, they would live alone, with only each other. That was until they heard a very loud crash. The crash of a palanquin with 2 humans inside. In a previous video, I talked about various things the Off-Colors would grow an interest in when it comes to Earth, like technology for Padparacha, history for Fluorite, art, and especially music for the twins, and my really stupid idea of making Rhodonite obsessed with Transformers. But let's expand upon these ideas now, as well as more general personalities. Padparacha is a character who, for the most part, is very cheerful. I personally headcanon her as the youngest of the group, besides obviously Lars, and if we're judging Rhodonite and Fluorite's ages by the age of their components. Her reverse future vision makes her perception of time a bit fuzzy, and often relies on the help of others. While very cheerful, she has more to her. She's kind of a bit sassy, sort of needs to rely on her words to attack due to not being much of a physical fighter, being a Sapphire and all. She also has a lot of self-image issues, in particular how her fuzzy sense of time affects others. She would blame herself for Lars's death after she came out of hiding too fast, even though it clearly wasn't her fault. And despite her messy brain making it hard for her to focus, she constantly finds herself hyperfixating on all things tech, repairing and upgrading the Sun Incinerator, reverse engineering Earth tech to make it compatible with Gem tech, anything. And yes, I am projecting my ADHD onto her, and there's nothing you can do about it. I also think it's important to remember how a Sapphire's future vision works. Garnet explains multiple times that it's not simply being able to see the exact events that will play out.
My future vision allows me to see down the rivers of possibility, granting me insight into the possible realities our actions move us towards.
I'd love to see more exploration as to how this would work for Padparacha. Maybe it allows her to see how past events have led to the present. We don't always know why events happen, due to factors we aren't aware of. But what if Padparacha was able to see those unknown factors? Going back to me saying how she often relies on the help of others, as well as me mentioning how Ruby would quickly grow fond of her, she has a very close bond with Rhodonite, with the fusion gem acting like a sort of mother figure towards her, something we did see a bit in the show. I also really like the idea of Rhodonite nicknaming her Paps. Speaking of Rhodonite, I know I said it would be really funny to make her obsessed with Transformers, but being realistic, let's just say she's really invested in like TV shows and movies in general. Basically, I want Rhodonite to be a nerd. Maybe Steven showed her Crying Breakfast Friends or Camp Pining Hearts, and she proceeded to become way more obsessed with it than he ever was. Just like how I watched Steven Universe because some of my friends were enjoying it, and I proceeded to become an absolute madman, losing my mind whenever I see a rock. Like, holy shit, Steven Universe! And hey, maybe she could get invested in some kind of totally original series about transforming robots. I'm honestly jealous of her. Having 4 hands would probably make transforming those toys so easy. Please help, I've spent way too much money on this stupid franchise. I'm going insane. I've started buying characters who look exactly the same but have different colors because yes, they are different characters and I need them all! Can you tell that I've been talking a bunch about Transformers in my recent videos so that you're more likely to actually click on the Transformers videos I want to make? I would like to see her interest in movies and shows be a lot more than just the superficial, oh, she really likes this stuff. No, I want her to actually become invested in the art of filmmaking. Lars of the Stars states that Rhodonite is head of strategic operations, but why? She's shown as a very anxious character, always worrying about something and trying to figure out the many different things that could happen. While that obviously stresses her out, I think when she's able to calm herself, she's able to use what she's learned in a more reasonable way. That's not just her immediate thoughts due to her anxiety. Perhaps she and Pat Paracha could work together, with Paps's past vision helping Rhodonite come up with new strategies. As I said before, since her visions could make her aware to certain unknown factors. Now, the Rutel twins, again, I'll be calling them Rutel 5DX and 5DY, or simply X and Y. Ashley Burch gives them both their own distinct voices. So here's how I see their own individual personalities based on their voices. X's voice kind of reminds me a bit of the voice Ashley Burch gave Enid in OKKO.
We survived because all the other Rutiles ran away when we emerged.
When a dumb nerd and a dumb factory love each other very much.
Which is more so what her natural voice just sounds like, but I've already got Enid on my brain now. So I kind of thought of her having a somewhat similar personality, not just a carbon copy. I see X as very loving and caring, but also kind of quick to anger when someone pisses her off, and she is very protective of her sister. Speaking of which, Y's voice is a lot more soft and high pitch.
How bizarre. What are they?
I see her as someone with a very gentle soul, as well as being extremely curious. She is usually the one to help her sister calm down when her anger comes out. I also love the idea of the two of them being able to feel each other's deeper emotions, and when one is feeling down, the other can help them cope by sharing that burden. They're always in sync with each other, emotionally and physically. They would need to be to move around, each of them controlling one half of their body. In the comics, it's revealed that they fear being separated, and I'd love for that fear to be explored even more. While they are very different from a fusion, they still represent two things working together in sync. Much like art, I can see them expressing themselves through art, and since this is Steven Universe, and they're played by Ashley Burch, I see them expressing themselves specifically through singing. They sing together in their own ways that harmonize each other, creating something that represents them both as individuals and as a pair. Man, a Steven Universe story about characters singing in harmony where I can actually hear the harmonies. That sounds like a brilliant idea. Going back to my Enid inspiration, I'd see X's relationship with Pat Paracha to be pretty similar to Enid and KO's relationship, with X being an older role model Paps would look up to, and her mostly cheerful mood keeps X smiling and not going into her grumpy mood. But I need to reiterate, don't take these OKKO comparisons too seriously. Like, these are just inspirations. Now Fluorite, she's the heart of the group. She's the one the others usually go to for wisdom, something she has a lot of, being a fusion of 6. But she's also very vulnerable. In the comics, we see her fears are being put on trial by the Diamonds, which, if we're going by my headcanon story, this would be her being put back on trial. And while being very wise, she's deeply affected by the kind of things said about her by other gems. She's very intrigued by Earth's history, its land, animals, society, etc. She loves learning about how this planet got to where it was, the good and the bad. But what about the love of my life, Lars? Well, I don't really need to talk about his character since we already know him pretty well. I would really like to see if we got his Filipino heritage explored a bit more, but I'm a white Australian, so I'll leave it up to actual Filipino people to discuss how to do that. I'd like to see his feelings around being kind of immortal now. It's not clear if he's fully immortal, but lions don't live very long. And considering Lion was probably fully grown with his full mane for Rose to put everything in there before Steven was born 16 years ago, and he's still around, and that's not even taking Buddy's book into account, which seems to imply he's actually hundreds of years old. Yeah, I think it's safe to say that Lars is at least safe from dying of old age. As for his relationship with the others, well, again, let's look at the comics, where he feels he doesn't deserve to be their captain, as he thinks he can't truly teach them about Earth or how to find their own passion that isn't dictated by the Diamonds. And in their attempt to cheer him up, they end up discovering on their own how to have fun, and they all work together to bring the best out in each other. The best way to explain how I see this whole relationship is by simply showing the cover of this comic issue. They're a family. As for the relationships with other characters, I can see the Rutal twins growing a strong bond with Amethyst, since she also emerged from the kindergarten in a form that was deemed as wrong. And despite being younger, I can easily see Garnet being a sort of mentor to Rhodonite, maybe even helping her overcome her fears that cause her to never unfuse, using Ruby and Sapphire's own experiences in Season 5, where they found the balance between being themselves on their own as well as being themselves as Garnet. And while on the topic of infusions, this isn't really something I need to be explored, but it's an interesting idea. Rhodonite is a fusion of a ruby and a pearl, so if she were to fuse with Padparacha, how similar would she be to Sardonyx? They would both be fusions of a ruby, sapphire, and pearl. Also, Rhodonite would definitely have a weapon of some kind, but I'm not sure what it would be. At first, I thought it would be something like Sardonyx's twin hammer, as that was a fusion of Pearl's sphere and Ruby's gauntlet, with nothing from Sapphire as she doesn't have any natural weapons. But I don't know if I can say that the Ruby and Pearl of Rhodonite would have the same weapons. Gem weapons don't seem to be a universal thing, where all of one gem type has the same weapon. The two Topaz working for Aquamarine had the same weapon, but then you have instances like Eyeball's weapon being this little dagger thing, which does make sense. A gauntlet as a weapon when she has a gem placement like that wouldn't make sense, so it seems to vary a bit. But I'd still like to see what kind of weapons these characters have. Now let's talk about Emerald. I don't have much to say about her that I didn't say in my previous videos. I see her mostly as a comedic villain who just continues and fails to get the Sun Incinerator back. Something I haven't brought up in my previous videos is establishing a past relationship between Emerald and Hessonite. I love Hessonite so much and I need more of her. Both of these characters are very egotistical, which would lead to some amazing interactions, especially since this would be set after Hessonite joins the Crystal Gems at the end of Unleash the Light. Hessonite will try to make Emerald join their side, fail, get really mad, and then the off-colors are just staring off awkwardly to the side. I'd also really like to see Hessonite and Emerald written as though they're really petty exes, but just never confirming their actual past relationship. And while we're at it, put Square Dot in here too. I just love the game characters so much. We need more of them. Make Emerald team up with Pyro. That could lead to some great comedy considering their similar personalities. I already mentioned Garnet and Amethyst, but I'd like to see at least some appearances from Steven, Pearl, Connie, Staboni, Sadie, and Shep. And of course, I'd actually want Dante and Martha to come back. Okay, next topic of discussion is the greatest ship in the universe, the Sun Incinerator. We don't see much of the ship outside of the bridge, so let me show you my headcanon for this model. And how will I be showing you? Well, if I sound kind of annoyed, it's because this is my 4th time trying to record this, because the first time I did it, my recording software crashed. Then I did it again, I recorded it successfully, but then I accidentally deleted the files while trying to clean up my hard drive. Then I tried for a 3rd time, and my recording software crashed again. So this is my 4th time and I'm kind of pissed off. But whatever. This is my Sun Incinerator in Minecraft. I didn't build this for this video. I built it quite a while ago, and then when I started working on this video, I did a few little touch-ups to it. You'll notice, first of all, these wings are really, really fat. I wasn't that focused. I did use a few images as reference to try and make this as accurate as I could, but I just accidentally made it a bit too fat because I suck at building in Minecraft. But I did give a proper purpose to them, or at least one of them. I also built these landing supports, which are not what it actually has in the show, because we see it in Change Your Mind. But I prefer these. These are way better. This also will have an explanation. There is a reason for that. It's kind of, yeah. So heading in here, we have a little room. Not much here. This is just meant to be sort of like the airlock. Like, got the airlock there. Spacesuit, because even though Lars is safe from dying of old age, I don't think he can survive in the vacuum of space, so got those. Over here we have just a little sort of kitchen area kind of place, because even though none of them have to eat, Lars still likes to bake, so yeah, he let him bake. We have just a regular toilet sink, whatever, you know. That was probably this was added in like later, because I intentionally did this because you can see these are made out of different materials to the rest of the ship, because this wouldn't have been something that Emerald had, obviously, but it would have been a modification made to it later. Over here we have another one of those rooms that was added in later. Got a bedroom for Lars, pink bed. I tried to replicate his little outfit he has. Philippines flag, even though I couldn't get the sun in the triangle because Minecraft banners are really annoying. Up here we have the Star Skipper. So yeah, Star Skipper. Stavani crashed it and was kind of completely obliterated in Jungle Moon, but you know, I can see them sort of rebuilding it. And you'll also notice that I've made it look super nice and clean, unlike the sort of scrapped together look of it originally. And that's because, like I've been saying, this series would be set after Future, so they would have been able to have all the resources on Earth. And oh, you can see here, there's one little piece I forgot to replace. Basically, it's a lot nicer because they would have had more materials to actually build with, and they wouldn't have had to scrap everything together. I might show up a picture. I still have a version of this that did have its old look, so I'll just show a picture of that now. But let's just go on ahead and look at the rest. But first of all, the other wing has nothing in it. I just said keep out Pat Paretta's workshop, but it's empty. I don't know why. I mean, I know I've been saying she's like would be inventing shit, so I guess that's why I did that. Whatever. Alright, let's head upstairs now. Bada bing, bada boom, bada beep, bada boo. Here we have, I guess this could be considered a sort of living room. I've got all the heads of everyone. This took forever because I had to like download all the skins. I had to make my own skins for like the Brutal Twins and Fluorite, so you can see that they're kind of not as good. But I had to download all the skins, then apply them to my account, then go into the game, run the command, get a head, quit Minecraft, and repeat that cycle for all the heads. It was really annoying. And then I guess this is like a flat screen TV. Lars can show them all Transformers animated. Rhodonites can get really pissed off watching Transformers Age of Extinction because they killed Ratchet. Now we reach somewhere where I'm taking less headcanons, because we did see behind the bridge door in one of the comics where we see a little sort of bench sort of thing. So I did that. Also put in a nice little carpet just to add some nice look to the floor. Over here we have those prison cells that we saw in episodes like Jailbreak. Emerald probably had these on her ship, so I mean I don't know. I mean I don't know if she did, but I feel like I believe it, and I think it just adds something nice. It's something I can put here. Also, yes, it's all built out of emerald blocks, meaning Emerald would have had a ship built out of her own flesh, basically. Now, gems don't technically need to bathe, but we do see them that they can enjoy it, and as a form of just relaxation. I say them, but I'm really just talking about the diamonds. I'm pretty sure they're the only ones, besides the crystal gems, who obviously live on Earth and Earth culture, and even then it's really just amethyst, like, kind of, I don't know. I really just added this because I don't want Lars to be stinky. Through here, we have just a sort of music room. I've been putting these little pot plants around with, I guess, sort of little random alien plant life. Got a piano made out of dragon heads. This took forever to get right. Got some microphones. I got like some taller ones for like the taller characters, like, you know, like Rhodonite and Fluorite. Here we have just a drum set, which I've actually made to be a drum set with the, because you know how the different blocks underneath the note block create different instruments, stuff like that. I've also been putting this flag around the place, which, I mean, it doesn't really, I mean, the design wasn't really much thought. It was just the best design I could think of using Minecraft banners that incorporated all the colors. You know, you got Fluorite, Pat Paretta, Rhodonite, Brutal Twins, and Lars. So now we finally reach the bridge. And this is, I mean, there's not much to say. It's exactly what you would expect. It's just what it is in the show. However, I did do a few things. like you'll see like here, like these plants, like I mentioned before, I put some of them around, and you probably also noticed around the place, I've been putting all these bookshelves, basically just to make the whole place feel a bit more lived in. And we've also got all the seats for everyone, Lars, Rhodonite, twins, Patparacha, and Fluorites down here. I took this thing from one of the books as well. And here, this looks a bit different to how we saw it in Your Mother and Mine. But I took this as sort of, we have these sort of the wibbly, wobbly tubey things. And then all this small mechanical redstone shit that basically it's sort of like combining gem tech with human tech. And we got more of that stuff, those tubey things around the place. And then heading down here, it's just exactly what you would think. But just one final thing to show. Oh yeah, this is what it looks like from the inside. It's very ugly and weird, and there's a bunch of command blocks. And there's also stuff like, hold on, I'll show you some things that like, because my design for this has changed quite a lot. This was Lars's old bedroom. This is where I originally put it. And this is what I had the original for the toilet, whatever. But yeah, actual final thing now. The roof here. So in the show, this roof has a glass ceiling and you can see through it. But when you look at the top of the ship, it's just flat. It's just yellow. And I replicated that with this, which is just the glass is just tinted glass to prevent light coming through either side. And then I put invisible item frames, which are invisible, obviously. And then I've just put some map art on top. And maps have no texture from the bottom, making this completely transparent. And it kind of looked ugly, just having a weird circle, so I decided to put a little pattern that kind of looks a bit like the Sun Incinerator. So yeah, that is my Sun Incinerator in Minecraft. It kind of shows a bit of my headcanon for the sort of layout that I would give it in the show. This was really funny, and let's get back to the actual video now. I'm gonna go out and say that this should be an Adult Swim show. One, because I'd love a more mature show set in the Steven Universe. And two, because I think it would be really funny if Patparacha said fuck. Like at some point she just drops an F-bomb. Do it once, make it the only F-bomb in the show, and in fact, don't even have any other swearing in the show above like a damn it here and there. Just have Patparacha say fuck once and that's it. This is something I need more than anything. Now the story. At the end of Future, Steven mentions to Connie that he was planning on visiting Lars soon. This would be a good place to start the show, bridging a connection from the main show to this. I'd also double the length of the episodes to the typical 22 minutes. While set after the events of Future, the aftermath of Change Your Mind would still obviously play a big factor. Introduce gems like those lapises from Why So Blue, who don't want to live peacefully initially. Maybe even some gems that aren't aware of Era 3, like those jades from Unleash the Light. And like I said before, give us game characters. Have an arc about Hessenot and Squaredot teaming up with the Off-Colors to battle against Emerald, who's teamed up with Pyro, only for Demantoid to show up and school all of them. Maybe even have Demantoid side with the Off-Colors, because she eventually realizes it's the most logical option. Of course, I'd want to see character arcs and relationships built. I've already talked about the kind of relationships these characters have, and getting to see them grow even closer will be really nice. One idea that I really love is a story where they crash on an unknown planet, resulting in Lars feeling like a failure again, blaming himself for getting them in this situation. And in this very emotional state, he ends up discovering new abilities he gained when Steven revived him, like portals. It only makes sense that he has these abilities. Why would Lion have them but not him? I don't see that much of an overall story. I think this would work better as an episodic series. The Crystal Gems are heroes, while I see the Off-Colors as more adventurers, but adventurers that are still very capable of heroism. They travel the galaxy looking for whatever. Gem Society is still rebuilding in this new Era 3. They're definitely going to find some people to help out. And what if they don't just meet more gems, but completely different species? Some that have suffered from their planets being taken over by the diamonds? But what about some that are completely free from gem activity? I think there's some really cool world building to be done there. Will we ever get this spin-off? Probably not. Hey, past me, I've got some really good news for you. I honestly can't believe that we're actually getting Lars of the Stars. This is kind of mind-blowing. I still haven't really fully processed it. Like I woke up and I just had a few DMs from some of my friends, like just telling me that it was a thing, and I thought it was a joke. I didn't believe them at first. But no, it's real. It's a real thing that's in production. And you know what's even more crazy? A while ago I put out an eBay order to buy something, and it arrived today. And this is what it was. He came the same day that this was announced. This is the greatest day of my life. I've got Lars in the plush form now, I guess. And Lars of the Stars is a show that is happening. I am so excited. This is gonna be amazing. I don't really have that much else to say, so I guess my name's Dr. Lamington. Like and subscribe to make me smile, and I'll see you later. Bye. Bye.